Hello and welcome back to another episode of White Album 2. We are playing through the closing chapter on Mari-san's route. So it's actually been a pretty pleasant day for Haruki, Setsuna, Takeya, and Io. They're out on a skiing trip. However, Takeya and Io, the scheming duo they are, left us in a room alone with Setsuna.
いきなり家まで押しかけられて
そのまま車で連れ出されて
気がついたら雪山に放り出されてて
頂上から転げ落とされて
体中にあざ作っちゃって
宿に帰って
温泉入って
酒飲んで
大騒ぎして
What a weird way to talk.
はめられて
いつの間にやらお邪魔虫楽しかったね
ああ楽しかった
And before we knew it, we were able to consciously and properly look at each other without it simply being coincidence.
最近は楽しいこと続きで困っちゃう誕生パーティーにそして今日に
困ることなんかないだろ楽しくてダメなことなんか何もないだろ
だったら嬉しいんだけどなリバウンドなんかなければいいのにな
At that moment, sure, I was at a loss for words, but I did not avert my eyes from her. And at that moment, a deep sigh escaped Setsuna's lips as she peered into my eyes with her upturned gaze.
ねえせっかくだから今夜はずっとお話ししてない私部屋に戻れなくなっちゃったみたいだし
After not sleeping the night before, are these people machines? How do they deal with the lack of sleep so often in this game?
ずっとって朝まで
The real meaning behind her behavior and the depth of it, for me, it's probably something that can't be understood fully.
基本的にはそのつもりだけどどっちかが疲れて眠ってしまうまでってのは
そんなこと言ったら先にダウンするのは刹那に決まってるだろ
頑張るから4時3時までは絶対に起きてるから
Even so, at that moment, the only thing that I think I clearly understood was that I was relieved by something.
別に俺は構わないよ何時に寝ても6時には目が覚めるし
Whew, that sounds awful.
相変わらず目覚まし時計だね春樹くん昔から毎晩同じ時間まで電話してても朝眠そうにしてたのは私だけ
Setsuna probably thought, I can get away with it today too.
じゃあどんなことを話す
そうだなねえ春樹くんは就職活動どんな調子
それさっき全部話したろ
Kind of, but not between just the two of you. I'm making sure that I'm currently the same person who attended Setsuna's birthday party just a few days ago. I'm making sure I'm the same person I was back then. The person who didn't hurt Setsuna when she was happy, who didn't neglect Setsuna when she was suffering, and who could only hold her hand without saying anything.
じゃあ今度は刹那の話を聞きたいな
But what exactly is wrong with me saying that?
私の進路のこと
いやそれよりもさ去年のこと何でも
去年
Am I aware that I'm currently in the middle of a trip? How long has it been since I last went out and had fun with Setsuna like this?
4月から同じ学部じゃなくなったから
Both Takeya and Io were driven to desperation and went out of their way to do something for us.
受ける講義も全然重ならなくなったし顔合わせてる時間だいぶ減っただろ
It's been really fun. I'm sure tomorrow will be fun as well.
そうだね会えなくなっちゃったね
That's why it's all right for us to do this today, right?
俺、大学3年の刹那、ほとんど知らないんだ。もしよかったら、どんなことでもいいから話してくれないかな。
After all, Setsuna is, without a doubt, a very important girl to me.
もともと距離を置いたのは俺の方なのに、都合のいい話かもしれないけど。
そんなことない。そんなことないよ。
刹那。
And I'm just not a guy who can keep on longing and waiting for the return of a girl who's already left me and went to some faraway place. Yikes.
そうだな。じゃあ最初は医学部の男の子たちとの合コン話から。
See, this is the attitude he should have had, first of all, way back then. And he should have just gotten back with Setsuna. Second of all, after Setsuna left him on Christmas, he should have just been like, okay, well, I'm gonna go for Mari-san. And now that Mari-san's gone again, he's like, okay, well, I'm gonna go for Setsuna. But then as soon as Mari-san comes back, he's gonna go back to Mari-san. Like, he's so indecisive. It's so bad.
それだけは勘弁してくれ。てか俺、それ全部知ってるから。
そうだったね。
To attempt a long-distance relationship would be impossible. I know this from experience. What experience? You have no experience with long-distance relationships. The love I had with her was one that was destined to end from the very beginning. That's why the decision I should be making, it should be obvious, right? I'm in Japan right now. Only for today, the preparations for my move are all done. All that's left is to get on my flight at 1 p.m. Truth is, I got back the day before yesterday. And to be honest, I didn't plan on contacting you again. Goodbye, Kitahara. I'm going. No matter what anyone says now, it's already been decided. I'm not a woman who can sacrifice her job for a man. But, well, if somehow you appear in front of me at the airport before my departure and throw a tantrum because you hate the thought of being separated from me, if you go that far, I guess I just won't have a choice. It's not like I haven't thought about what had happened after this. Yes, Tokyo and New York are far apart, but I still think I can come back for a day or so every month. So... Oh. West Virginia Airlines Flight 302 is scheduled to depart Narita at 1 p.m.
北原、お前はいちいち細かく指示しないと動けないようなやつじゃないよな。そんな風に育てた覚えはないからな。締め切りまであと半日。私を捕まえてみろ。
Oh, Mari-san. West Virginia Airlines Flight 302 is scheduled to depart Narita at 1 p.m. The contents of Mari-san's text were blunt, as usual. And yet I felt like I understood exactly what she was thinking and what she's looking for. Looking at my watch, I see that midnight is long past. Today is already March.
来月にね、あの子もう一度帰国してくるの。今度こそ赴任のための最後の準備でね。次に渡米したらもうしばらくは帰ってこないと思う。
Sawako-san. It's true that she said sometime in March, but who would have known it would be scheduled in such a way? She's only giving me half a day. And to make matters worse, I'm currently in the mountains of Shinshu, which is almost half a day's drive from Tokyo. My surroundings are covered in fresh white snow, but it's so dark right now that you can't even notice how white it is, and the last train of the local line left a long time ago. Success hinges upon being able to get on the first train tomorrow, and even then, my prospects of making it in time are looking slim.
ごめん、メールが来てた。
But Mari-san, it's already too late. It's too late to be giving me a push on the back at this point. It's too late for you to be giving me a chance now.
話、途中になっちゃってたな。じゃあ、続きから。
もういい。
After all, I've...
彼女はさ、5つ年上なんだけど、俺のバイト先の上司なんだけど。
もういいんだってば。話さなくてもいいんだってば。
I've already told Setsuna all about you. Because I've decided to move forward. I've cut off my own escape route. Yikes. After Setsuna finished talking about how she'd spent the past year, it was my turn to talk about how I'd spent it. It all began in spring. At the time, I was gradually fitting in with my new colleagues as a new member of the literature department. A certain woman suddenly walked up to me and addressed me in an overly familiar manner, and I ended up spending an excessive amount of money under the pretext of a welcome party. She ended up asking me for a lot more favors following that incident, and that may have been why I was eventually seen as someone reliable. This unexpectedly closed the distance between me and my peers. Oh, Chiaki. Next was summer. With my sights set on my future, I spent my summer break considering my prospects for employment. I took the plunge and applied for a position at Kaiosha, where I ended up being so busy with work that it was dizzying. It felt like I'd spent 24 hours a day working without thinking about anything else on a regular basis. It was there that I cultivated a connection with someone, my talented superior, who despite being ridiculously harsh, was capable of bouts of kindness. Autumn followed. It was during this season when all things wither away, and when my lab seminars officially started, that I was finally able to give everything some proper thought. Following the end of the school festival, that song of ours started going on air on the university's own FM broadcast. It was then that I crossed paths with Setsuna once more, but missed the mark yet again, and that's pretty much where closing chapter began. And it was then that I'd met a certain young girl who happened to be my junior both at school and at work, who simply couldn't tolerate how indecisive I'd been and all the mistakes I'd made. And then came winter. The season of reminiscence, during which memories of a certain someone would inevitably surface in my mind, no matter how many years pass. I'd been unable to reconnect with her, but I got back on my feet and did my best to get close to her. And it led to that Christmas evening, our final, most destructive breakup yet. However, while that may have been the end of that day for Setsuna, the truth was that it still hadn't reached its end for me. And the very moment I told her about what followed, Setsuna finally lowered her gaze after looking at me this entire time, refusing to face the confession of my sin. What sin? You guys broke up on Christmas. It was very clear that you guys were not dating at that point.
厳しくて容赦なくて自信家なところがトーマに似てると思ってた。
Even though I can no longer see Setsuna's expression, she's gasping in pain, and I know exactly what sort of emotions are behind those gasps.
でも思い出だけで人を好きになったりしない。逃避だけで相手を思うことなんかないんだよ。
But I continue talking nonetheless. This needed to be said, though. It really, really needed to be said.
俺その人が好きだった。
I can't count the amount of deplorable things I've done to her.
結局裏切っちゃったけど、すごく傷つけちゃったけど、もうすぐ海外に行ってしまうけど。
She scolded me, encouraged me, pouted in front of me, acted spoiled around me, teased me, and embraced me despite everything.
でも好きだった。本気だったと思う。
I love that adorable, older woman who's ridiculously kind, yet also capable of bouts of harshness. Setsuna's shoulders are shaking.
結局俺彼女と一緒にまた刹那を裏切った。何度目かわからないくらい傷つけた。
Before I realized it, her breaths had turned into sobs, shaking the silent space meant for only the two of us.
許されないってわかってるけど、ごめんな。
Even if I apologize. No, to apologize to her in itself is unforgivable. It was supposed to be a clear-cut conclusion done 3 years ago. And yet I've only continued to hurt Setsuna throughout these 3 years. And to make things worse, I'm trying to end things in the worst way possible right now. It's not. You have to say, hey, we've broken up and I'm moving on. That's all it is. It's not a bad thing.
どうして今そんな話するのかな。
Setsuna's sobs are tinged with a resentful tone.
春樹くん、楽しいって言ってくれたじゃない。私といてずっと笑ってくれてたじゃない。
I mean, just because you're laughing with someone and having fun doesn't mean that you need to be dating.
楽しかったよ。嬉しかったよ。本当に。
だったら。
でも俺はずっとこの機会を待ってた。大事な話しなくちゃならないって思ってた。
It's precisely because we're having fun right now. It's exactly because we're sharing a nice atmosphere between us. And it's because telling her this right now would hurt Setsuna all the more. After all, haven't I been simply using excuses that are convenient for me, such that I'd only been delaying the conclusion at every turn? That is what resulted in our half-baked situation right now, where neither of us knew where or how to advance.
俺のしたことは裏切りだけど、それを隠すことはもっとひどい裏切りだから。
Regardless of whether we'd be happy or hurt, what I really need right now is time meant for the two of us to talk things through like this. Is it not?
だから全部話した。ごめん、刹那。
だからなんで謝るのかな。
自分には関係ないって言うなら流してくれ。俺の痛い勘違いって言うなら笑ってくれ。でも話さなきゃいけないんだ。俺
関係ないから言ってるんじゃないよ。謝ることじゃないから言ってるだけなんだよ。
刹那。
だってそれ私のせいだよね。
She adamantly refuses to admit it's my fault.
春樹くんを遠ざけておいて、なのに関係を壊すことを嫌がった私のせいでもあるよね。
It's both of yours, like you're just not compatible in this timeline. Setsuna, who broke down that Christmas evening,
私が変な風に引きずったから春樹くんだって傷ついたんだし、その人だって離れていっちゃったんだよね。
is now relapsing to that state where she endured with all her might, hurting herself to forgive me before consequently breaking down.
違うよ、そんなの。セツナのせいなんかじゃ。
だったら私が考えることは一つだけ。あなたを慰めてあげたいってことだけ。
No matter how many mistakes I've made, she's forgiven me at every turn. And even though it must be unbearable to her, I keep on repeating the same mistakes.
あの時、私が泣いてしまったせいで、春樹くんが泣けなくなってしまったんだよね。
It's like a microcosm of the vicious cycle we've been repeating for 3 years now.
だったら今ここで泣いてもいいよ。泣いてもいいよ。私をその人の代わりにしていいよ。
Oh, that's not good. Wow.
やっぱり私は代用品なんじゃないか。
Culminating in the worst and most despicable decision Setsuna's ever made. Yeah, that's a pretty gross thing to offer, both to yourself and to the other person. The snowfall outside the window is getting heavier. The snow and the wind blow against the building unrelentingly, bringing the slightest noise to the otherwise quiet room. Though our hearts are likely shaking more wildly and fiercely than the blizzard that's blowing outside.
私さ、今の春樹くんとすぐに心を通わせる自信ない。
セツナ。
Setsuna places her hands on mine on the table.
でもさ、春樹くんの逃げ場になってしまえば、先に体だけ繋いでしまえば。
No, baby girl, no.
やめろよ。
I managed to reject her with words, but I failed to shake her hands off of mine.
無理に正面から向き合おうとしてお互い傷つくくらいなら、何も考えずに受け入れてしまった方が。
You're literally facing each other right now.
やめろ。
That's why Setsuna only puts more force into her hands, unconcerned by the fact that I'm raising my voice.
なんで？春樹くん、辛いんだよね。悲しいんだよね。
This is the very definition of a compromise that's placing the cart before the horse. Having been unable to connect my heart with Setsuna's or be physically intimate with her, I made the mistake of seeking out a substitute for her. And even though that was exactly what brought about such a sorrowful development, at least in her eyes, right here and right now, Setsuna herself is offering to become a replacement for her. A replacement for the replacement for her.
やめろよ、セツナ。もうやめてくれ。
彼女と離れ離れになっちゃって、ぬくもりが欲しいんだよね。
Stop with that. Stop with the pushing. That's just not okay. And Setsuna deserves more than having to be a replacement when she's emotionally vulnerable like this.
ダメだって。それ以上。
私、体だけならあなたを温めてあげられるよ。だから春樹くん、
俺は
私を抱きしめてくれませんか？
俺はまだ彼女のことを諦めてない。
I never wanted to hurt Setsuna, but it seems that it's inevitable that I'll hurt her now. It just sucks. There's no other way to put it, because he didn't fight this hard for Setsuna, but he's fighting this hard for someone else. It hurts. Like, I don't blame Setsuna for being hurt, but it needs to be said now. That's why I had only hoped to cause as little damage as possible, but Setsuna is violently resisting my attempt to do that. That's why it would have been better to do this in a different place where you're not like trapped together overnight in the same room. Like, you should be able to go to your respective safe places. In the end, Setsuna's wounds only continue to rapidly fester before my very eyes, beyond my control. She buries her face into my chest, hugging me with every ounce of strength she can muster. Setsuna desperately tries to hold in her voice, crying instead throughout her entire body.
なんで刹那の方が謝るんだよ。
別れたのに、切れちゃったのに、こうして抱きしめてもらって、今の彼女に悪いのに、こうして私を慰めてくれて。
大事だから。刹那はいつまでも大事な人だから。
大事だけど、好きじゃないんだよね。
好きだよ。決まってるだろ。
でも、一番じゃないんだよね、今は。
And so we maintained our embrace like this, not knowing if we had spent countless minutes or hours in this painful, bitter, yet precious situation.
ごめんね。でも、どうしても否定したかったんだ。
何？
お互い好きで大事に思ってるはずなのに、こうして別れようとしてる私たちを。
Sometimes you can love someone but know that it's just not healthy for you, especially in this moment.
刹那。
It's sad though. It's really sad. I'm sure that the next time I hear Setsuna's voice, it will mark the nearing end of our calm yet sorrowful time together.
ねえ、春樹くん。私が眠るまででいいから、こうしてて。
I'm going to let go of Setsuna soon. I'm going to tear away my arms that are embracing her right now.
一度眠ってしまったら終わりにするから。次に目覚めたらもうあなたのことを忘れるから。
And I'm sure that doing so will feel utterly excruciating, like having my own skin ripped off.
春樹くん、
何？
私のこと好きだったよね。好きだったんだよね。
Oh, this is like the saddest part of this whole route so far. Because, like, if you've been in a relationship and you've had a breakup that's like this, like, kind of mutual, not mutual, but like, you still love each other, but you know it's for the best, it's so hard.
好きだよ。ずっと好きなままだよ。
It takes so much strength and bravery to do this, and obviously Setsuna doesn't have that strength, but Haruhi does right now, and jeez.
ひどい言葉ありがとう。私もうそれだけでいいよ。
刹那。
Once more, Setsuna saves me from my fears at the very last moment. We willingly shift our tightly entwined hands away from each other. Even at the very end, Setsuna is still so strong. And while her strength is undeniable, no doubt, it's nothing more than a fragile strength that's only enough to remind herself that she's merely putting up a front.
Harukiくん、笑ってたもんね。彼女の話をしてる時も。
Oh man. What an emotional chapter. Alright, we're gonna stop off there for today. Thank you so much for joining me on this chapter of Mari-san's Route, and we will continue on later. Until then, I hope you take care. See you!